$2.1 million in debt. And when my husband and I joined this church in 2015, they were 3.1. I don't know how much they initially borrowed.
Yeah.
But 2015 to 2023, that's 8 years, and the debt is only down to 2.1. They are paying extra on principal, but they hope to have the 2.1 million, this at a 3% rate, paid off in 7 years. They're going to increase the speed, but during that time, since that's a 3% rate, they want to go ahead and borrow money to expand the sanctuary without, without
コーヒー持ってきたね。
And that concerns me because there's so much interest. We all know loans are interest heavy. You know, the first how many years normally it's a loan and a 30-year note, and I don't. It's a lot of money wasted.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's no doubt about it. And so I think, what I'm hearing that I'm encouraged by with what you're saying is it sounds like they really have made a priority to eradicate this debt in a reasonable period of time. Being able to, the fact that they have paid it down $1 million, they've cut it, taken a third off of it in these years that you've been there, and they're planning to have it paid off completely in 7 years. That's, I think, pretty compelling. And it means that they've got good cash flow. They're prioritizing, this principal reduction, which is a good thing. Now, the question is, how much are they going to add on top of it? And obviously, that's going to be at a much higher interest rate. And does the cash flow and operations of the church really support that additional debt service? What will that do to their ability to continue on this current track? And where is the church on this? As they cast this vision, is the church really going to be on board with this expansion in light of taking on debt on top of existing debt? And I think that's there's nothing in there that you've said that automatically I would say, well, that just doesn't work. That disqualifies them from doing this, because it sounds like they really are intent on paying this off in full. But I think it really is going to be a matter of, where is the church at on it? Are there folks willing to step up and make a major commitment toward this new project and, commit to funding it over a reasonable period of time through their, faith promises or commitments? And if not, that would be a good sign to the church or to the church leadership that maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves here because the church isn't on board.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It all does. And one other thing, that you help build a church or expand a church, their concern is we're at 3 services now, and people don't typically like sitting up front. And so they're telling us we've got to make room for people to experience the presence of, and I'm not making fun of that, saying this at all, but make room for people to experience the presence of God. Well, they feel that we need more seats, and so I started sitting up front and parking in the gravel parking lot instead of in the concrete one. And but I guess I'm just so concerned, about debt, especially in our present economic situation.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say. I would say take that to your pastor and just talk through that with your pastor and make sure that he hears your perspective. Maybe there's others that feel the same way. What I know to be true is that God will provide if this is the direction that the church needs to go. So I would say you lay out the vision. Money always follows vision. Lay out the vision, see if the church is on board, and let that be the litmus test as to whether this is the right approach. Thanks for your call. We'll be right back. Our thanks to Certified Kingdom Advisor Wade Chessman, President and Wealth Advisor, and his team at Chessman Wealth Strategies in Dallas for their support of faith and finance. Their goal is to help their clients expand their understanding of biblical financial principles and how to implement them. The website is chessmanwealth.com. The phone number is 214-572-2120. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Miscarriage can be a devastating experience for couples. Would-be mothers feel this grief and loss deeply, but what about the men? On the next Focus on the Family, Dave Dietz describes his emotional shutdown through 4 miscarriages and how he finally American Family Radio.
What's most important to you when it comes to choosing your financial advisor? Someone who's aligned with your biblical values? How about someone who will take the time to explain your options? Certified Kingdom Advisors are professionals who meet high standards in competence and integrity and have been trained to offer biblical financial advice. To find a Certified Kingdom Advisor in your area, visit faithfi.com and click Find a CKA.
We are grateful for support from Sound Mind Investing in the Faith and Finance program. If you have money in a retirement account or just a general investing account, you know the stock market can sometimes seem like a roller coaster. But it is possible to enjoy both profit and peace of mind in investing, no matter what's happening in the market. You can see a short video webinar on that topic at soundmindinvesting.org. Since 1990, Sound Mind Investing has sought to offer financial wisdom for living well. soundmindinvesting.org.
With us today on Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. We're delighted you're along with us today. In just a moment, we'll be talking to our good friend Jerry Boyer. He's our resident economist, and he stops by each Friday with his timely analysis of the markets and the economy through the lens of Scripture. I think we've got Jerry with us. Jerry, are you there? All right, not yet. He's on his way, and so we'll get to him in just a moment. Let's take a call in the meantime. Jim has been waiting patiently in Illinois. Jim, go right ahead.
Yeah, hi, Rob. Thanks for taking the call.
Sure.
I have an embarrassing situation on my own making. I have not filed federal taxes for the past 2 years. And I was wondering if you could shed some light on this. I have an extension until the 15th, but it's not going to happen on my end. I was wondering, should I contact, where I would send the tax return, on October 15th, or can you shed some light on?
Yeah, I think the key here, Jim, is do you owe anything at this point on either of these years?
No.
You don't? Okay. Then I wouldn't be concerned about it. I mean, I'd just get it in as soon as you can. The real issue comes in is if you owe something and that's accruing interest and penalties because you haven't paid. But if you don't owe anything, you filing that tax return late is really not a big deal as long as you're paid up. So I would just say don't continue to put this off. Make it a priority. Get it done. Get it in as quick as you can. But if you don't owe anything, there really won't be any issue.
It is an offense, though, not to file, right?
No, there shouldn't be. As long as you didn't know anything, you won't pay any penalties or anything like that. Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear, and my plan is to get it in before the end of the year, those 2 years, and then get 2023's in before April 15th. How about that?
I like it. Yeah, use this as some motivation to get this done the next time. God bless you, Jim. We appreciate it. Thanks for calling today. Well, Jerry Boyer is with us. It's Friday. Jerry joins us with his market analysis and commentary. Jerry, it's been a couple of weeks. Good afternoon or good morning to you.
Good morning to you as well. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. Thanks for being on the program, and I'm looking forward to hearing just what you're thinking about everything going on. I mean, we've got just incredible devastation in Israel and Gaza right now. Obviously, that weighing on the markets, not to mention, that's a far cry from just the real loss of life and just the heinous acts going on over there. But we've also got new economic data out. Jerry, what are you focusing on today?
Well, focusing on a lot of things, so let's go in the order that you talked about. It's interesting,
Uh-oh, it looks like we might have lost Jerry. So we'll try to get him back on the line. Jerry, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great. We lost you just temporarily. So you said let's go in the order you said, and let's start over with that.
Must be. It must be that the thing we're about to talk about is
It's
important. because
really
there's been so
important,
much
apparently.
Yes. All right. So, by the way, you know that I like to study the Hebrew Bible and the early chapters of Genesis. You know, when God looks at the earth and says it's full of violence, the word there in Hebrew is Hamas. Isn't that interesting? That the Hebrew word for violence is Hamas. And I think there's a providential thing going on there. I mean, they didn't choose their name to actually coincide with the Hebrew word for violence, but it is a kind of the violence that we saw before the flood. And so people have asked me this because you always ask an economist, like, well, what are the economic implications of this? And my answer is probably not much. Israel is likely to essentially destroy the Hamas regime. It's an evil regime. You know, we didn't just defeat the Nazis in battle and then leave the Nazis in power in World War II, right? When you have that kind of horrific abuse, you change the state. They need a new government. So why isn't that roiling global markets that much? Because it really isn't.
Yeah.
Because that part of the world, because Israel is going to win, and Israel is an economic powerhouse, but the Islamic State and the other Islamic states and these terrorist states like Hezbollah and Hamas, they are so economically unproductive and backwards that those countries, I don't mean the people in these countries, I'm not advocating genocide, I mean the nation states, the governments can be in a state of war where it's likely that they don't exist anymore and it doesn't ripple through global markets at all because they're not producing for global markets.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of, the human cost of this will be terrible, but because that part of the world never embraced the Judeo-Christian worldview, which lies behind high levels of productivity, the Islamic world, especially the Islamist world, the extremist Islamic world, doesn't produce. And so the world economy is saying, well, Hamas is gone. And economically, that doesn't really amount to much because they weren't really contributing much. So, I mean, we need to pray for victory for justice in this particular case, and we also need to pray. There are people who are Palestinians who had nothing to do with this, right? And they're going to get caught in the crossfire. And there are people who are Palestinians who are Christians, and they certainly had nothing to do with this, you know, and so we pray for the safety of the innocent. But it's interesting from an economic standpoint, unless this goes wide, unless it leads to a war with Iran or something like that, the economic implications aren't very strong because the economic implications of Hamas and places that are governed like that are insignificant. They're insignificant contributors to global economic growth.
Yeah. Well, that's helpful, Jerry, and it does explain a lot, and that's exactly what we've seen play out in the markets. Now, the markets tend to, you know, they're driven by smart money, people putting real dollars and cents on the line, you know, signaling where they think the markets are headed via their investments. And so that money is signaling, Jerry, that this isn't going to expand beyond the current war between Israel and Hamas.
That's right. We're seeing slight increases in oil prices. We're not seeing a huge geopolitical risk factor in oil, which would happen, say, if there was going to be a war with Iran. I think markets are basically saying that, which I think is probably pretty true, that the Biden administration is largely going to brake pedal Israel, not gas pedal Israel. I mean, after what happened, which is bigger than 9/11 proportionally, one could reasonably take the point of view that the Iranian regime needs to go, right? Because they were enablers of this. But that's not going to happen. The Biden administration is not going to, they're just going to give them, less billions than they were going to give them already. So this isn't likely to kind of spread out into a conflict between nations which are really significant nations. So you have a little, gold's up a little bit, oil's up a little bit, but the markets are not signaling that this is some kind of global conflagration or even a regional one, because frankly, it probably won't be. It's probably going to be Israel versus Hamas, with the U.S. kind of being somewhat supportive of Israel, not very, and trying to contain this conflict. Maybe even more than it should be, because there should be military implications for Iran having participated in something like this, but I don't think there will be. So markets are basically responding this week to the same thing they respond to almost every week, which is what will the Fed do?
Yeah.
Yesterday, when inflation came in hot still, Inflation still hasn't gone away. The second month of elevated inflation, markets say, okay, that's going to fight inflation. They're going to slow down the economy. They're going to pull money out of markets. They're going to burn the money. They're going to destroy the money. And so the markets were trading down on that, a little bit more chance of recession. This morning, kind of changed his mind. The consumer sentiment survey came out, and people are not feeling good about the economy, which I think they're right to not feel good about the economy. And then the thought is, maybe the Fed's going to have to cut, sooner than we thought, right? And then markets are up a little bit more. So from day to day, the markets change their mind about what the Fed's going to do, not because the markets are unstable, but because the Fed is unstable, because it's double-minded and has conflicting mandates, and markets have to respond. Markets are in a marriage with a dysfunctional partner, and the central bank is the dysfunctional partner, and you never know what mood he's going to be in. And markets have to kind of respond to whatever mood they think the Fed is going to be in. And yesterday it was going to be raising rates and slowing money supply to fight inflation. And today it's maybe we're heading into a recession, and the Fed's going to have to go back to creating money supply.
Yeah, interesting. Jerry, when it comes to inflation, you mentioned the latest data. Obviously we've been seeing certain aspects of the economy easing. Food prices are down, and we're seeing used vehicle prices finally coming down. What I was reading recently was that the real sticking points, and probably are going to take a recession to actually see some movement in these, are shelter and services. What do you think about that?
Yes, and that's the illusion. That's what gives people the illusion that a recession solves inflation. And it doesn't really solve inflation. Recession makes people too afraid to buy a new house or to live in a decent apartment, and so they downsize or they don't upsize, and that causes a temporary slowdown in price growth. But the moment we're not afraid, the money supply increase has its way in the world and prices go up. The only way to beat inflation is to have a growing economy and stable money. 4,000 years of history have told us that. We need to get back to that and away from the new economics.
Yeah, that's right. Well said, Jerry. Always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for the Hebrew lesson today and your analysis on the economy. We appreciate it.
Shalom Aleichem.
Thank you, Jerry. That's Jerry Bowyer, president of Bowyer Research. He's our resident economist. We always look forward to Jerry stopping by each Friday morning, and we'll look forward to having him back next week. In the meantime, folks, you enjoy the great rest of your day. Thanks to my team. I couldn't do it without them. Robert Youngblood, Evan Patrick, and Jim Henry. I'm Rob West. This has been Faith and Finance on American Family Radio. Hope you come back and join us on Monday. We'll be here to do it all over again. In the meantime, may God bless you. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG, Greenville, Dallas. Around us. That's why Christians need to stand strong on family values and morality. Hi, I'm Ray Rooney, editor of The Stand, a blog from the American Family Association. The Stand has timely, carefully written articles on relevant cultural issues that you can quickly forward to others. Visit afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, almost a peek. A Philadelphia police officer was killed in a shooting last night. Jack Callahan has more.
A 22-year veteran of the Philadelphia police force was shot and killed when he and another officer intervened. They saw suspects breaking into cars in the airport parking garage.
The suspects opened fire on the officers, striking one officer multiple times. The other person striking the other officer.
Interim Philadelphia Police Commissioner John Stanford, the surviving officer, reported in stable condition. Police say minutes after the shooting, the getaway car pulled up outside a hospital and dumped an 18-year-old with a mortal gunshot wound. Jack Callahan, Fox News.
Israel issues an evacuation order, telling residents in Gaza to move south, but Hamas orders them not to leave. Trey Yinks reports on the war from the Israel-Gaza border.
A senior official told me, quote, "It's technically impossible." This is a significant development because we do know the Israelis will drop leaflets and they will do what's called a roof knock strike to warn civilians inside their homes, especially high-rise buildings, that an airstrike is going to come and that they need to get out immediately or they could be killed. This is significant because the source indicated Hamas is threatening people and preventing them from leaving if they tried to get to a safer location. It's also significant amid the backdrop of this new warning by Israel, an order for all Gazan civilians in the northern part of the Strip to leave immediately. They're giving them 24 hours.
Texas Congressman Ronnie Jackson says Israel must do this to end the war.
They have to get rid of Hamas. Hamas has to completely be exterminated, or this is just going to continue to happen again.
Despite the atrocities committed in Israel, 57 Harvard student groups have signed a statement in support of the Palestinian terrorists.
Breitbart reports the statement asserts the Israeli regime is entirely responsible for all of the violence which has killed more than 900 Israeli citizens. We asked Naya Lecht of the Institute for Global Studies of Anti-Semitism why they would support Hamas.
And if you've been indoctrinated, and if you've been taught to see the world in one particular way, and you decide who is good and who is bad based on who is oppressed, who isn't, every time you're going to look at any situation, you'll see an underdog, you'll think they must be good, they must be oppressed. The one who's in power must be an oppressor.
The Harvard students are demanding that the school take action against Israel. Lecht explains.
I think that they want a BDS. What can Harvard do? But what they want is they want Harvard to pass BDS so that no Israeli will come to Harvard, that there will be no exchange student program in Israel with Harvard, that Jewish students cannot freely express themselves and their Jewish identity. That's what they want.
She asks, how dare they side with murderers and rapists? I'm Bob Kilwan.
An Ohio Traditional Values Organization is drawing comparison between Hamas and something that is happening in our own country.
Hamas has taken heat in its campaign to kill Jews in Israel because its terrorists beheaded at least 40 babies and children, perhaps more. Caring Americans see that as horror. But then liberals are supporting the same thing when it comes to preborn babies being dismembered in abortion. Linda Harvey of Mission America describes that as horror.
What's really that different about that and someone who's a terrorist who comes into your family's home and kills your child? They have decided that child is not worth saving. We need to face what it is we're doing.
On a different chord, she contends there are people who are serving in political offices that should be aborted from their jobs.
I think people need to hold these pro-Hamas legislators accountable when they vote in the next elections for Congress, such as Rashida Tlaib in Michigan. It's absolutely atrocious that we have people who will not condemn these attacks by Hamas, and that is beyond belief.
In November, Ohioans will vote on a constitutional amendment that would legalize abortion up to birth, perhaps a sort of terrorism against preborn children, if it passes. So residents are being encouraged to vote no. I'm Charlie Butts.
More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Heaven changes everything. That was our theme for our fall share-a-thon here at American Family Radio. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman. I'm the president of AFA and American Family Radio. Just wanted to say thank you for giving during share-a-thon. Our loyal listeners always come through. And we can't make it without you. Your prayers, your financial support, just so vitally important to us. So just wanted to say thank you. Have a great day. Keep listening to AFR.
This is Trivia Friday. The number to call with your question or your answer to a question is 888-589-8840.
I'm saying that Abe Lincoln could dunk James Madison.
Okay. That's what you're telling me.
Tell everybody in America, what's the name of that song?
It's a Hokey Pokey.
You're exactly right. Hokey Pokey.
From Baton Rouge, Kentucky. Garbanzo beef. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trivia Friday on American Family Radio. Thanks for listening to AFR. It's Friday. That's about it. It's Friday in October. That's about all I know. I usually get the date, Ed.
It's October 13th. It is Friday the 13th. If anybody listening is of a superstitious sort, I'm not. Totally
How
not
dare you.
superstitious.
Well, you are when it comes to the Boston Bruins. You have those rituals you go through.
Oh, well, that's not superstition. That's preparation. That's game preparation.
Kendra.
Good morning. Great to be with you, fellas. Filling in for JJ today.
Kendra White. JJ is traveling. Ed Vitagliano, Tim Wildman. So we replaced Kentucky boy with a Kentucky girl.
Well, we have to keep the balances.
Yes, that's right. Well, the universe needs to stay in balance. But we're not superstitious.
Where in the world is JJ Jasper?
Well, he was out of town, and I'm looking up. He had sent me something here to make sure I thank some folks. He's traveling back from Vicksburg, Mississippi. He was the speaker last night for the Center for Pregnancy Choices banquet. He said it was a wonderful crowd, a great night for life. Mississippi House Speaker Philip Gunn also spoke for a few minutes. He touted the state's of Mississippi's commitment to protecting the unborn baby. And next he will be speaking in Ohio and Campbellsville, Kentucky. And he wanted folks to know that they could check his schedule. I think it's
JJJasper.com.
JJJasper.com. And then JJ Jasper Official, I think, on Facebook. But anyway, he wanted to thank the folks in Vicksburg. And
hey, listen, Sherathon.
Record breaking.
Last 3 days, Tuesday,
Hola,
Wednesday, Thursday. This week we had Sherathon.
Patremo Nayoni.
We are just blown away by the response from our listening family. You want to give them the numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. We set a new record in terms of pledges of $4.3 million. And then, amen. Thank the Lord.
Come on, Kendra.
And then I'm not sure where we're going to wind up in terms of the actual number of pledges. We got very close to our record. We had over 19,353 individuals and or families. Also, Sheila Shoemaker, who heads up donor support for us and kind of heads up a lot of the folks who were answering phone calls. We had a Sherathon Central right down the hall from us, but we also have a setup where overflow
we get
overflow, it will go to another call center. But Sheila said we were blowing both of those away in terms of number of calls. So folks, some of you actually had to leave a message of a voicemail, and Sheila wanted me to assure you they will be and are and will be getting back to everyone who called and left a message. So we had such an outpouring and such a great response from our listeners. Sheila also said those calls will go toward any challenge during the time that they called. So some people called during a challenge.
So,
okay.
Okay, so if people called and they couldn't get through,
right,
and they're wanting to make a donation to American Family Radio these last 3 days, which I don't know that we've ever had that happen before, where we had all of our call, all of our folks answering phones, and we were so overwhelmed we couldn't take them all, so they went to a voicemail.
Yeah.
So rest assured, we will hunt you down.
We will still take your money.
You made the
Don't
mistake
worry.
of calling and leaving your phone number.
Your name and phone number.
But not only that, but if it's during a match, you will still get that credit.
That's right. So your gift will still be.
So listen, thank you. It's overwhelming. I suspected, oh ye of little faith. Last week I was going, the economy's down and we're gonna take a hit during this Sherathon.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. That's kind of thinking that was starting to go through my head. And no.
The economy's down, but the lies have risen, and people just want to support the truth.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. So
I just want to say that kind of attitude, Tim, is the kind of attitude that
you never have.
The entire generation from entering the promised land. Oh no, listen, my wife knows I'm not going to lie on air. I am the first one.
Anything bad can happen.